Hello, and welcome to Budget Commander. On this channel, we'll discuss Magic the Gathering topics with a focus on playing Commander on a budget. We'll cover things like deck building, top cards, deck techs, and more. Let's get started. Hey friends, today we have a Golos Tireless Pilgrim deck tech for you. This is a budget deck tech, specifically 1DH, meaning all the cards in the deck are $1 or under, with the exception of the Commander, who can be up to $5. Deck cost was just under $38 as of the time of recording. Cards were price checked using mtgstocks.com, so know that the price that you see listed in this video for each card may fluctuate, goes up and down depending on when you see it, so prices may be a little bit different. This is a ramp theme deck, so we're going to try to get a ton of land onto the battlefield so that we can activate Golos' ability at least once a turn, hopefully maybe even twice. His ability says pay 2 and 1 of each color to exile the top 3 cards of our library, and then we can play them this turn without paying their mana cost. His enter the battlefield ability allows us to search our library for a land and put that card onto the battlefield tapped. So we have kind of a sub-gates theme. What we want to do is get a bunch of lands out. Ideally, we're searching up gates with Golos, and then use that mana that we've just gotten to activate his ability and basically get free cards off the top of our library. Gives us draw, ramps us out, and draws us if we activate his ability and get hits. As always, we're going to start out talking about the accelerants. These are the cards that give us access to extra mana. Then we're going to get into our game plan. Our game plan is to kind of control the board with lots of board wipes, and then get in for bites of damage here and there on our opponents just when the opportunity arises. This is pretty tactical of a deck, so if that's not your strategy, or you don't like a strategy, you don't like to think too much, this probably isn't the deck for you. But if you like to kind of go into that mind magic and figure out the best way to work your opponents, this is probably a fun deck that you might like. Next, we'll talk about cards that interfere with our opponent's game plan. As I said, we got lots of board wipes, so maybe a little bit lower on the interference number there, because most of the board wipes, we're going to be removing a bunch of our opponent's creatures with one card. Then we'll talk about cards that provide consistency to the deck. And lastly, we'll get into the lands that help this deck operate. So for accelerants, we're running Font of Fertility, Dawntreader Elk, and Colony Heart Expedition. All these help us to get extra lands onto the battlefield early. We also have Farseek, Rampant Growth, and Fertilid, which get extra lands to the battlefield early. Farseek can get any one basic we need, aside from a forest. Then Springbloom Druid, Wood Elves, and Harrow also get extra lands to the battlefield early. And equal and opposite of Farseek, Wood Elves can only get us a forest. We also have Grow from the Ashes, Search for Tomorrow, and Growth Spasm, which each get us an extra land to the battlefield early. Grow from the Ashes has a kicker, which can get us a second land. Search for Tomorrow has a suspend cost, which allows us to play it on turn 1, which is great. And then Growth Spasm doubly ramps us out because it gives us an Eldrazi spawn that we can sacrifice for an extra mana, or we can just use as a chump blocker if we need it. We also have Beanstalk Giant, which we can send on an adventure to get us an extra land to the battlefield early. But if we hit this with Golos' activation, we can just put him out as a big creature. His power and toughness are equal to the number of lands we control. We also have a handful of mana rocks. Each of those mana rocks is going to tap for 1 of each color, helping to fix us. Seeing that we're in a 5-color deck, it's important to have great fixing. So we have Darksteel Ingot, as well as Fountain of Ichor. The Fountain we can transform into a 3/3 dinosaur artifact creature for turn, so help us get in extra damage, or use it as a chump blocker. We have the Spinning Wheel, Mana Geode, and Manalith, which also tap for 1 of any color. The Geode comes in and scries, helping us to fix our draws, and the Spinning Wheel allows us to tap for 5, or pay 5 and tap it to tap a creature down. So if we are strung up on tons of mana and don't have anything else going on, we can tap down our opponent's creatures. Not really how we want to use that card, but it's there if we need it. Last one, we have Midnight Clock for mana rocks, should I say. Last one is the Midnight Clock, which taps for a blue. And then at the beginning of each upkeep, so ours as well as each of our opponents, the clock gets an hour counter. And then once it has 12 counters, we can it gets exiled, and then we get to shuffle our hand and our graveyard into our library and draw a new hand of 7 cards. The Midnight Clock can also be a mana sink in that we can dump mana into it ourselves to hurry it up and get that new 7 cards if we need it. But with a 4-player pod, you're going to get that in 3 turns, as well as have an extra mana for access to extra mana for a little bit of it. The next few cards we have are not true accelerants, they just fix us in that they search up a land. However, with the gates theme, most of them will help us to search up a gate, and with 5 colors, we need a lot of fixing anyway. So we have the Traveler's Amulet, which gets us a basic, Open the Gates, which can get us a basic or the gate of our choice. Both of those go to our hand. Gatecreeper Vine and District Guide can either get us a gate to our hand or a basic to our hand, and then Sylvan Scrying just gets any land from our library to our hand. Usually we're going to be choosing a gate. Getting into our game plan, we have Tawnos, Urza's Apprentice, and Kurkesh Onake Ancient. Both of them help us to get double activations of Golos when we use him. Then we have Mist Meadow Witch, which is just a great value control creature. Allows us to blink or flicker our own creatures to get extra enter the battlefield triggers, or helps us to control the board, allowing us to flick our opponent's creatures as well. Then to protect our board, we have Teferi's Time Twist, Ephemerate, and Flicker Wisp. The Time Twist and Flicker Wisp both flicker a card, so they're gone until the end of turn, so that helps avoid board wipes. So we could use a Flicker Wisp if we're going to be casting a board wipe to protect one of our other creatures. The Time Twist brings that card back with a +1/+1 counter, which is nice. Ephemerate allows us to dodge targeted removal, and then we can use its rebound ability the next turn and get an extra end of the battlefield trigger as well. More protection, we have the Stealth Suit, which gives one of our creatures Shroud, Alpha Authority, which gives one of our creatures Hexproof, and makes it so that it can't be blocked by more than one creature. And then Hold the Gates, which gives all of our creatures Vigilance and +1 Toughness for each gate we control. So it allows us to kind of sit back and block whatever we need to and get in for little bits of damage here and there when our opponents leave themselves open. Our main ways of getting in damage, my favorite is right there in the middle. Crackling Perimeter allows us to tap any of our gates to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So a great way to just drain them out. Otherwise, we have Rampaging Baloths, which every time we get a land gives us a 4/4. With Golos' ability, as long as he stays on the table, we're almost never going to be missing land drops. And then the Gate Colossus, which is just an 8/8 that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. It does cost 1 less for each gate we control, so can be very cheap as far as power and toughness to the CMC. And then we can also be able to bring it back in that whenever we play a gate, we get to put the Gate Colossus from our graveyard on top of our library. So if it gets removed, we can bring it back over and over again. Or we can even time when we play our gate so that Golos' activation is putting this out for cheap. Cards that are going to interfere with our opponent's game plan, we have Reclamation Sage, which gets rid of artifacts or enchantments, Acidic Slime, which can get artifacts, enchantments, or lands, and then Bant Charm, which can counter an instant, destroy an artifact, or put a creature on the bottom of its owner's library. As I said, we do have a lot of board wipes, so we've got Solar Blaze, which has each creature deal damage equal to its own power to itself, which is nice because Golos is a 3/5, so he won't be killing himself if we use this. Time Wipe allows us to return our most important creature to our hand and then destroy all the creatures. Volcanic Vision allows us to return an instant or sorcery from our graveyard to our hand. Volcanic Vision then gets exiled, and the card that we return to our hand has its CMC totaled up and deals that much damage to each of our opponent's creatures. So if we got Time Wipe back to our hand with Volcanic Vision, we're going to deal 5 damage to each of our opponent's creatures, as well as get the Time Wipe back. Dune Blast allows us to keep our most important creature and destroy all the rest. Ingaruk's Wake removes all of our opponent's creatures and planeswalkers. And then Urza's Ruinous Blast exiles all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So we're going to keep Golos as well as a couple of our other cards alive or around if we use this. Just be mindful that it hits non-land permanents, so our mana rocks and other enchantments are going to get removed if we use Urza's Ruinous Blast. The same, except for not being exiled, we have Planar Cleansing, which destroys all non-land permanents. So be kind of careful about when you choose to use either of those, but we like to keep the board nice and clear and just get as much value off of Golos as we can. Insidious Will is a great utility card. The first two abilities we're probably going to use if it's in our hand: counter target spell or choose new targets for target spell. And then the third one will probably be activating if we hit it on Golos' ability, in that we'll be copying an instant or sorcery. So probably copy one of the other instants and sorceries we've played with Insidious Will if we hit it with Golos' activation. Cards that provide consistency. We have Explore and Growth Spiral, which both draw us a card and allow us to play an extra land. Fact or Fiction is going to get us 2 or 3 cards most of the time, possibly 4 or possibly 1. Kind of just depends on how our opponents separate the piles. Then we have Cloud Blazer, which is a great flicker, bounce, blink target. It's going to draw us a couple cards, gain us a couple life. It's a flyer, so if our opponents are playing flyers, we do have a chump blocker there. And then we have Urban Evolution, which draws us 3 and allows us to play an additional land. When you're playing Golos, I recommend you try to activate his ability and see if you don't get a land off of those top 3 cards, because otherwise those lands just get exiled. It also, you can only play 1 land a turn, so you might as well play one that you exiled if you can help it, which means there are going to be lands that pile up in your hand. So cards like Urban Evolution help us to deploy those lands so that we have access to more mana. And then we have Reclaim, Regrowth, and Archaeomancer, which all allow us to get cards back from our graveyard. Regrowth gets anything from our graveyard to our hand. Archaeomancer gets an instant or sorcery. And then Reclaim can get anything to the top of our library. So we can be kind of selective about how we use Reclaim and make it so that Golos is hitting something big with his activation. Grave Upheaval is great because it allows us to play our opponent's best creature from their graveyard to our battlefield. It gets haste, so reanimate something. We can also basic land cycle it. No more fun than beating your own opponents with their own stuff. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, allows us to do more of that, in that when he enters, we can look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, pick our favorite one and exile it, and then regardless of the color identity, we can use mana to play that card. Another great blink flicker target. And then Rhea Dawnbringer, which is just a solid value card, a 4/6 flyer that's going to reanimate 1 creature from our own graveyard every single turn. Next, we're going to talk about the lands. We have Vivid Grove, Gateway Plaza, and Plaza of Harmony, which essentially give us any of our colors. Gateway Plaza does cost us 1 and it enters tapped, which kind of sucks, but it adds to our gate count, which is nice. Vivid Grove gives us green usually, but we can use it 2 times to give us any other colors that we need. And then Plaza of Harmony, as long as we have 2 gates, we're going to gain some life. And we can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color our gates can produce. So once you've had 3 gates out, if they're the right combinations, Plaza of Harmony can tap for any color you need. Then we have some fetch lands, which allow us to fix our colors. Blighted Woodland, Evolving Wilds, and Terramorphic Expanse. Blighted Woodlands does fetch up 2, which is great. Then we have all 10 of the basic gates, so Azorius, Boros, and Dimir Guildgate. They all enter tap and give us 2 of our colors. Golgari, Gruul, and Izzet Guildgate also enter tapped and give us 2 of our colors. Orzhov, Rakdos, and Selesnya Guildgate enter tapped and give us 2 of our colors. And then the last Guildgate, which is the Simic Guildgate. Temple of Plenty is the only other 2-color card that we are running. It gives us our 2 most important colors in this deck. And also scries 1, so that helps fix our draws a little bit. And then we have some lands that give us 3 of our colors in Jungle Shrine, which gives us the Naya colors. Frontier Bivouac gives us Temur colors. Opulent Palace gives us the Sultai colors, and Savage Lands gives us the Jund colors. As far as basics go, we're running 8 forests, 5 plains, 3 islands, 2 mountains, and 2 swamps. Average CMC of this deck was 3.53. There is the mana curve there. If you like playing kind of a dirtly deck, or you like playing tons and tons of board wipes, this is probably a good deck for you to try out. Give it a go. Let me know how you liked it. Let me know which cards you think should be added or taken out. Otherwise, let me know which commander you'd like to see a deck tech on next. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. Peace. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you should like the video. You can subscribe by hitting the icon in the top left. YouTube thinks you'll like the video on the top right. Otherwise, you can check out one of the playlists on the bottom. Have a great day.